Hey everyone, welcome to ATech Reviews. Today's video will be reviewing and talking about that time, and that's why I got them, and I understood it more clearly when I spent time with them. It has an excellent separation. I will talk about that. It just has things that sound very wide, but at specific frequencies, and I will mention that again. Let's just start to tell you what comes in the box, so to speak. You find in the box it's a very simple unboxing experience. You get a carrying case, which is like this one. It's semi-soft, like you can find here the cleaning brush, and it's not that hard, but it is hard relatively speaking, and it's nice. You can carry it, put it in your pocket, no problem there. And then we get a 6 pairs of ear tips. Now they have these names like atmosphere and reference. I will tell you what they do. What they want to say, I think, is that this pair right here, the gray colored one, dark colored, let me get them out, is a narrow bore, and as you can see, the opening is bored. The difference between this IMs and ear tips and what comes with other brands is that it is very, very soft in this part right here. So then you get another set of ear tips, which is the wide bore. I'm not sure which one. Maybe I used them and I changed the downwards one. I put them up or something like that because I was taking a picture. I will show the picture for you guys. But this is the other one. It's very, very, very soft right here. You can see that, and it's squishy and very nice. And it's a wide bore, so it enhances the sensation or listening experience with the treble, and it gives you slightly wider presentation, more sense of space, if you will. They also provide a foam ear tips, just one pair, and they say it's a small size. In my experience, like this looks more like slightly medium, but it does the job, and it's important. I'll explain why they provided this. And that's pretty much it. You get the IM itself. It comes in with a cable option of 2.5, 3.5, 4.4. I wish there was an interchangeable termination plug or a modular cable, but they provide only these solutions. And the cable itself is relatively flexible. It's very, very pliable. It never tangles with me. It's slightly on the thin side of things, so if you're a fan of this type of cable, this one will suit you greatly. I have to say, like, it's really never tangled on me, not even once. It's very soft, very flexible. There's, like you see, preformed ear hooks here. And this is the IM themselves. There is a vent, which you can see here. I'll post pictures that you can see. You have a metal nozzle. I'll measure it and post it as well. And there is a small gap that you can see right here, this part. I'm not sure if this is part of the air circulation system they talk about, but anyway. And you get your almost flush a 2-pin system. Now, enough talking. Let's break down the sound. Let's put on the curve. Let's look at it. Let's have the curve. Let's look at the curve here. Now, the first thing that grabs your attention when you look at the curve is the tonality of it. There's a few peaks we can see at the mid-range and after the mid-range, but if we look at the bass, I will also describe my experience with the bass. But before I say that, look at the driver matching. I think this is something great as well. It has excellent driver matching. Not every IM I get has an excellent driving matching, but this one is like a copy, which is great, honestly. Another thing is the bass. I will talk about it here. The bass is clean, it is clear, it has a lot of detail, a lot of clarity. Although for my personal preferences, personally speaking, I wish it had more. It had more mid-bass and specifically sub-bass. Well, they mention in their material and the pictures you see online that they were going for a vocal-centric, more mid-centric or vocal-focused sound signature. And I think they achieved that. They achieved it actually very well. But for my listening enjoyment, I like some more bass in my music, like when I listen to hip-hop and stuff like that, EDM specifically. I like more sub-bass. I like to hear that rumble going on when the track, requires it. But I think what they're going for, like I said, is the vocal-centric or vocal-focused sound signature. They don't want the bass to overshadow the mids or even be even at least highlighted or anything like that. They want the mids to be the center of the show, and that's what we get here. As well, it is very detailed as well with the good slam, and I'm sure it will be satisfying for most people, honestly. But I wish personally it had more. Although what is there, folks, is sufficient, and it has that clarity, it has that separation. I wish it had a bit more texture. That's something I think it needs, but we have what we have here. Now, when we move on to from the mid-bass to the lower mid-range, there's no bass bleed or anything, but the transition is a bit lean. There is no bass bleed. Yeah, sure, but this is one of the cases where I wish there was at least some mid-bass more, because it tends to add notes, weight to the notes. It tends to add heft to the lower mid-range, so to speak. It makes male vocals sound more natural, more thick, authoritative. It has, natural qualities. I feel that when I listen to more IMs. Now here, yes, there's no bass bleed, but it sounds a bit lean. The vocals sound very lean, and dare I say even they sound a bit thin. They remind me exactly of the vocals on the Nova. And I know that's why I say that, because I listen to a lot of male vocalists I love, like Barry White, Ice Cube, Johnny Cash, and there is a natural thickness in their vocals that should be there. Whether you like their voice or not, that is something else, that is preference, but naturally their voice has that thickness. And here I think that thickness is slightly reduced, so I don't feel their voices are actually thick. I feel it's lean, it's extremely detailed. And that's actually nice. That's not bad. If you are listening to things that you want to focus on the vocals or specific instruments, the Cloud will be great. Moving on to the upper mid-range, I think the upper mid-range is at the limit here. If it was lowered, specifically you will find two peaks if you look closely. One of them is at the upper mid-range, which is I think 2.5K if I remember correctly, and then one at the presence region, which is at 5K. Now, what these two do is, they say, they want this as a vocal-focused sound signature, and that's exactly what you get here. A lot of vocal clarity, a lot of vocal detail. Really, it is shining. This is the star of the show. This is the standout feature of this IM. It has excellent vocal qualities and vocal representation, although a bit thin with male vocals, but still very detailed. If you listen to Michael Jackson, for example, you will not find anything, Eminem, whatever. You'll find a lot of clarity and detail. Now, when you listen to female vocals like Adele, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, these things now sound phenomenal. And I appreciate what they did, because now I know where the vocals are in the background. It doesn't sound that good, but when the vocals are like this, man, you're enjoying it. Yeah, the bass is not there as I like it to be, but I understand. Now you enjoy the vocals. You can hear every little nuances in the vocals and the instruments. You can hear the breath of the vocals when they get like on live recording next to the mic and stuff like that. You can hear that. But of course, the drum kicks will not have that oomph behind it, will not have that bass, the visceral, meaty bass. So this is not an IAM that has that. But for the vocals, it's top notch. And there's a lot of clarity and separation in the instruments as well. A lot of the instruments are in the mid-range, and this is something you get with it. When we move on to the treble, it has a lot of like clarity. It has a lot of detail. But as you can see, things are a bit peaky, slightly peaky. A lot of IAMs have that. Actually, it's not actually something strange or like bad, like SIMGOT has that. A lot of IAMs have that. But I think like some sounds in the treble region are accentuated more, and other instruments sound just normal. They're not in the background or anything, but they just sound normal. And if you look at the treble, you kind of get an idea here. I will tell you what I hear. I hear a lot of air, a lot of air, a lot of clarity, a lot of detail. There's a lot of sense of space, which this IM achieves greatly. And this carries over again to the presentation of the vocals and the upper mid-range, as they sound very clear, clean, and very detailed. So that's it. In terms of soundstage and imaging, guys, I will combine them, and I want to mention one quality which I find actually like surprising in this. This is the quality I listened at CanJam. This is the thing that made me get this IM to review, which caught my attention. I don't know if this is like caused by the air circulation system or what, but I will tell you guys, when I listen to high frequency sounds, things that are high frequency oriented, they come at me as if from a distance, like as if I'm listening to them. They are separated. They're coming from a separate tube that's far away and still close to my ear, but it is like at a distance, like slightly outside my ear. It like sounds like, just an example, small example. If I'm listening to EDM and there's something like, I hear that separately. Like the width of the soundstage is not only about that. It's average. If I talk about the bass and the mid-range, the soundstage is average. The imaging is average and expected at this price. But this quality I'm talking about comes from a distance. High-frequency sounds are so separated, and they come as if from another tube. And this like makes them separated from the mix. And they're coming at you very wide, which gives you this weird sensation that's awesome. Like you have to experience this IM to understand. So wide, and imaging is on point for the high frequencies. And that's what I heard that time, and that's why I got it here, and I understood, yeah, it is there only at the high frequencies. It is great. So imaging is on point. Like I think this will make it a very good IM for gaming, for vocals and instruments, because you can hear acoustic guitars, that upper like pluck, the bite and stuff like that. It comes again separate and very wide, very realistic. Same thing, guys, when I'm listening to jazz and I'm listening to trumpets. Trumpets sound like separated from the mix and coming at me wide and, like separated at all from the music. It's like the trumpets alone are separated from the vocals. Treble adds in that. Everything plays a role. Anyway, it sounds really, really, really good, and I wish you guys try it to understand what I'm talking about. Now, let me start with my first comparison. The first comparison will be between the SIMGOT EA1000 and the BQEYZ Cloud. The EA1000 is another excellent IM that has a dynamic driver and a passive radiator, if I remember correctly. Price, of course, is much higher, but let's compare according to the graph. If you look at the graph, you'll find they look actually similar, but they sound different. Like they look so similar, but they sound really different. Take the bass, for example. The bass looks similar, but in my experience, the SIMGOT EA1000 still has a better bass response, in my opinion. Like it has that texture, it has that slam, it has that impact. The Cloud is not far off behind, but the texture specifically is very high with the EA1000. If we move on to the mid-range, you can see the EA1000 has a little bit more mid-bass, and that carries over, gives them lower mid-range vocals and instruments, give them that natural thickness, gives them that weight. The notes have weight. If you listen to the piano, you know what I'm talking about. These lower octaves, they need that, sound that makes them sound visceral, that sounds natural and realistic. Male vocals sound very natural, very thick if they require that. And the rest of the tuning is very similar with the exception of the 5 to 7K region. You can see that the BQEYZ has more here. Maybe that plays a part why the vocals are more forward on it, because when I compare them, this is what I feel. I feel still the vocals are more forward in the Cloud. They're more closer to my ear. Male and female vocals and specific instruments like acoustic guitars and trumpets are very close to my ear. And when we move on to the treble, again, slightly similar. I'm not saying anything is different. I feel the EA1000 still, with all these excellent qualities here, I still feel the EA1000 has more detail retrieval and more instrument separation. When I compare them side by side, I still get more instrument separation here. That's just something I wanted to say, and detail retrieval across the board. What the SIMGOT EA1000 doesn't have is that, like, quality, I don't know how to describe it, the quality where things, high frequency sounds come at you separated from the rest of the mix completely and sounding very wide. The EA1000 overall sounds wider, like across the frequencies, but the high frequency here is just something else. Maybe this is the air circulation system they're talking about, I'm not sure, but things here and the high frequency sound very wide, very detailed, they will shock you. Here, the Cloud is a vocal focused sound signature. EA1000 is just a general sound signature. It's fun, it has a very good bass, it is an all-rounder, if you will. This is also an all-rounder, but it's for vocal lovers. It's for like people who want to hear vocals and instruments above all. They want just slight bass to make things like balanced. They want clarity in the treble, and doesn't sound harsh. That's also something I want to mention. Next comparison will be with the Celest Relentless, which is another great IM I reviewed. Now the difference is here between those two IMs. When you listen to them, they're like night and day. Like, this is done for a person and this is done for another person. And I think it's kind of nice if you own IMs, not specifically these two, but if you own IMs that offer you guys different sound signatures so that you know the differences or enjoy them with different types of music or movies, and at least to know your preferences. Now, the Celeste is a V-shaped sound signature and has a different sound depending if you use foam or if you use silicon tips, but generally it is a V-shaped sound signature, and the bass, oh my god, is insane. A lot of rumble. This is like rumble that's never stopping, and a bass that has good texture, good quality, very, very strong. And I can see the person who likes this will not like this, and the opposite is true as well. If a person prefers the bass level here, they will find this extremely too much. So that's all nice and well and everything, but this is the biggest difference between them. In terms of the mid-range, again, this is a V-shaped, so although the vocals are very forward and very nice, they're not the star of the show, whereas with the Cloud, you feel the vocals are the center, the vocals are the focus of everything. And when we move on to the treble, here it changes with the foam. The foam tames it down a bit if you want just to enjoy the bass and the vocals, but if you want more clarity and air, you use silicone tips. With the Cloud, you get a lot of air, a lot of clarity, and the foams, I didn't measure it, but they also lower the treble, but it doesn't sound nice without the treble. I think the best feature of it is that clarity and separation, and that like separated treble I talked about. So two excellent different IMs. The difference also is this Relentless has a lot more detail retrieval and instrument separation, like a lot more. This is a king in this area in its price range under $200. Moving on. This is the Hiby Project Ace. I think this is a single dynamic. I'm not exactly sure if I remember correctly. I had this for a long time. I didn't get to review it, but it's really good actually. Now, if you look at the graph, you'll find a lot of similarities actually. In terms of the sound, there are similarities, but they are still very different. Even in the bass, I think the Hiby has a stronger slam, stronger impact in the bass, although it looks on the graph the same, but it still has that. And it gives the lower mid-range a bit more heft. It gives it slightly more weight to the notes, and it makes things actually good and natural sounding. But where things take a hit here is when we go, if you look at the 2 to 4K, I think, region, I think you'll find it having a dip on the Project Ace, which we don't find here. So I don't feel that the Project Ace, specifically also if you look at the treble, you find it's not as the Cloud. So I feel the Project Ace doesn't have the forward vocals. It sounds just balanced. It sounds enjoyable. I wouldn't call it neutral, but it sounds very enjoyable. And you get the bass, you get the normal treble, and you get just slightly lowered 2 to 4K, which affects how things sound. Like, things don't sound harsh at you. I understand that, but still, I would love to hear things a bit more forward, like I get on the Cloud, which is awesome. Out of these two, I would love the Cloud more because of the treble separation I talked about, but the bass of the Project Ace is better. And the Project Ace is an IM that you can use at high volume, whereas the Cloud, if you raise it to high volume, it just doesn't become very enjoyable because it focuses on the vocals, and the vocals already were very sensitive to the vocals. Our ears are most sensitive to the vocal frequencies. So already at low volume, you hear everything perfectly. So mid volume, okay, lovely, enjoyable. High volume, not so nice. Here you can raise the volume, you'll enjoy the bass, and that 2 to 4K tuck will, allow you to enjoy that as well. Anyway, these are the differences. Another IM is the Kato, a favorite of mine. And if you look at the graph, the Kato is more expensive. It's still more expensive, but it could be, like, I think now we can have IMs much cheaper than that, but still, it's still good. Still, I use it. Still, I love it. I take it with me many places. It's a great IM, single dynamic driver. And if you look at the graph, the first thing that you will notice that it has more bass. Now, this is the bass type that I say adds weight to the notes, makes the male vocals sound natural, makes many things enjoyable. You can use movies with it, and so on. But to be honest, this doesn't make the vocals shine like the BQEYZ Cloud. You still feel you're attracted, or your attention is grabbed by the bass, and so on. In terms of the mid-range, you find the Kato has a smoother overall mid-range, and that makes sense. This is not the center or what the tuning was going for. It's a balanced tuning, so to speak, which it achieves greatly. And if you move to the treble, you find it's the copy, or similar. Not a copy means they copied, but I mean, just it's very similar to the BQEYZ Cloud. Now, when I listen to both, I'm actually loving the bass of the Kato, the way it's done, although it carries over to the mid-range a bit, but it makes it very nice, very sweet, very, very, not heavy, but has that weight, has that heft, guys, that heft in the lower mid-range that makes things like sound really good. Like acoustic guitars have that thickness to them, have that bite, and things sound really natural. And the mid-range is balanced with the tonality, but doesn't stand out on the Kato. Detail retrieval and instrument separation, like I would say it's very similar when I compare them side by side. Of course, the Cloud will make you feel that there's more clarity or more detail in the mid-range and the treble, because the air is really, really high. The clarity region here is very high. You feel the treble is more detailed here, but that could be also because of the way the bass is tuned. It makes me, not paying attention to the bass as more, and my attention is drawn to the highlighted mid-range and the highlighted treble, because these are very, very clear on the Cloud. So that's just my experience. If you want detail, if you want vocals, if you want instruments, and you want just slightly below neutral bass, slightly, you can have the Cloud. The Kato, I think the biggest feature is the bass, which makes things have a very enjoyable but different presentation. Now, the last thing I will compare it to is the Nova. The Nova, as you can see here, there's a lot of similarities in the graph, but you can see the Nova has more sub-bass, which is definitely a plus again. But the bass itself, the mid-bass, is almost similar, and even the lower mid-range, a big part of it is exactly similar. And that's why the same vocals that sound thin here as well, like on the Nova and on the Cloud. But the difference is that on the Cloud, it's more highlighted by nature because there's less sub-bass, and The mid bass allows the vocals, as I said, to be very highlighted, so you feel the vocals are in your face. They're not harsh or anything or shouty at all, but they're just in your face. And in the treble, there's a lot of clarity, a lot of air, so it has a lot more clarity up top. But when I compare them in terms of detail retrieval and separation, honestly, I think they are very similar. Like, although here there's that treble quality I'm talking about, where things sound wider and coming at you with excellent separation in the treble, at the other frequencies, they are like very similar to each other. Excellent instrument separation, excellent detail. Both of them are equal performers. I just think this has the edge in terms of vocals and instruments, and it has the edge in terms of air and clarity that's never harsh and without wide treble thing I'm talking about. That's it, guys. I will just post another graph that I found against the NICEHCK Himalaya. I don't have the Himalaya with me now, but I will just post a graph because I just noticed it and wanted to put it. That's it. Let me know what you think of this review, if you like it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below, and please subscribe and like this video if you like my content. And that's it, guys. Until the next time. See you. Bye.